In today's fast-paced digital landscape, artificial intelligence is... Stop. You've read it, you've cringed at it, you might even have made some of it yourself. Everyone knows that this kind of AI writing is shit. But getting ChatGPT to write well is actually a lot simpler than you think. I'm about to show you 5 ways that'll make you sound less like a boomer and more like someone who knows what the fuck they're doing. We'll start by unlearning everything they taught you in school. Then we'll go over all the many ways ChatGPT can write. And finally, I'll show you how to make ChatGPT write like anyone in the world, including you. But first, let me go over some of the bullshit advice you might have seen around the internet when it comes to humanizing AI content. Before I started making this video, I watched all the popular ones on the same topic so I could steal their thumbnail and title, but also so you could avoid watching them. Because while some of them gave decent advice, a lot of it was terrible. For example, some people will tell you to use weird jargon like perplexity and burstiness, which doesn't help you at all because it's not specific. Others made videos that were just thinly veiled ads for their own AI humanizing tool, which you don't need to pay for if you know how to prompt. And then my favorite piece of advice was just tell ChatGPT not to sound like ChatGPT, bro. Now, most of this advice focuses on fooling AI detectors, which is pointless because AI detectors don't work, and no one cares if content is AI generated as long as it's good. That's what we're here to learn. And I promise this video won't end with me plugging some crappy and expensive AI tool, which is basically just a ChatGPT wrapper plus a few prompts. What I will plug though is my free copywriting course, which I've linked to in the description below. And I'm about to give you a little taste of what's inside of that course, because the first way to humanize AI content is, wait for it, instructed how to write well. Now, if that sounds like me stating the obvious, it's because it is. The problem is that most people don't know how to write well, which is why they hire copywriters like me to do it for them. You see, most people were taught to write in a professional manner, using big words, long sentences, and dense paragraphs. And then OpenAI went and trained ChatGPT on that kind of writing, which is why its default setting kind of sucks. For example, let's open up ChatGPT here, and then we'll ask it to write a short article on copywriting. And there we go. As you can see, it churns out the usual ChatGPT bullshit. Copywriting is the craft of writing persuasive content that motivates readers to take action, and blah, blah, blah. You're already asleep halfway through the first sentence. So, how do we instruct it to write well? One little neat trick here is to ask it to write in the active voice instead of the passive voice. Now you can see that it's getting slightly better, but it's still using ChatGPT-isms like in the digital age, which no one talks about. It's just called the present. So let's try another one. Keep the language at a 5th grade reading level. 5th grade reading level is good enough for Alex or Mosey, so it's good enough for me and you. Now we're getting somewhere. Copywriting means writing words that make people want to do something, like buy a toy, click a button, or sign up for a game. Now I know that I asked it to write at a 5th grade reading level, but I didn't ask it to write to a 5th grader. Still, it's a lot better than ChatGPT's standard output. You can also try to make it more concise by asking it to use short sentences of max 10 to 12 words. Now you can see it writes much punchier sentences than before. The only problem is it's formatted like some kind of LinkedIn broetry, which is a bit annoying. But as you can see, these simple instructions will get you some of the way. However, the writing might still feel a bit stiff and soulless and robotic. So how do we add some flavor to the output? Well, that brings us to method number 2. Pick a tone of voice. Now, ChatGPT has been trained on a bunch of different writing styles and tones of voice, so it boggles the mind that they chose the absolute most boring writing style and tone of voice as the default setting. They could have made it sound casual or energetic or poetic or nostalgic or sarcastic, but they didn't. Fortunately, you can. So simply tell it to write in an insert adjective tone of voice. Personally, I prefer a mix of frank, witty, casual, and conversational. Check this out. Copywriting is basically using words to get people to do stuff. Click a button, buy the thing, sign up, share, you get it. This is a far cry from ChatGPT's default setting and much closer to how you hear your friends or colleagues speak at work. Now, if you're not sure what writing style or tone of voice is right for you, just ask ChatGPT to give you a list of options and provide you with some samples of each option so you know what it looks like. Once you've found a style that suits you, simply save that to the custom instructions in the settings tab, or just ask ChatGPT to save it to its memories. But maybe you want something specific, something more unique, something more like your favorite author. And that brings us to method number 3, which is to imitate a character or celebrity. Ever wanted to write write like David Ogilvy or Frank Kern or Dan Coe? Me neither, but now you can. See, when OpenAI trained ChatGPT, they didn't just stick to the public domain and used old books written by people who've been long dead. That's why you can use it to pretty much imitate any living author or celebrity or copywriter or even a fictional character. You could, for example, ask it to write in the style of Mark Manson. So let's check that out. Now it says, copywriting, why your words probably suck and how to fix them fast. Let's get something straight. Most writing is boring. It rambles, it confuses, it tries way too hard to sound smart. So that could pass as something Mark Manson would write. But why stop there? You could ask it to write like Mark Manson, who's given up on life and become a nihilist. Now we get a much different take on copywriting. Say stuff, sell stuff, die anyway. Let's not kid ourselves. You're here because you want to learn how to write words that sell. Why? Who knows? Maybe you're trying to make a living. Maybe you're chasing meaning in a cold and different universe. Maybe you're just bored. Whatever. The problem here is that it says, here's the truth, which brings me to my next point. Now, this is pretty funny, but what's not so funny is that the keen observer will notice that it's dropped in what I call a ChatGPT-ism. In this case, here's the truth. See, while ChatGPT can generally imitate famous people or fictional characters, it still can't help itself but drop in these ChatGPT-isms. And for the untrained eye, these can be very hard to spot. Fortunately for you, neither of my eyes is untrained, so I'm about to show you how to avoid ChatGPT lingo. See, by now, most people will recognize classic ChatGPT terms like delve deep, buckle up, elevate, game changer, and so on. Many of these haven't actually been spotted in a while, which could indicate that OpenAI has finally decided to purge them from its vocabulary, and thank fuck for that. But some of them, like game changers, still persist. And that's why it's a good idea to keep a list of ChatGPT lingo to stay away from. As you can see here, I've compiled my own little list where we have classics like digital landscape or dive deep or game changer. And these, here's the deal, here's the thing, here's the scoop, here's the truth, here's the real tea, here's the good news, here's the kicker, here's the twist, here's the catch, here, take it all. Or what about this one? In today's world. Or the landscape. It's always talking about the landscape. This one was a classic too. Let's embark on a journey. And while we're embarking on that journey, let's try to navigate the landscape. It also had a fetish for superpowers, superheroes, ninjas, wizards, and magic and spells. And any tool that had more than one purpose was basically a Swiss Army knife. And it also thought everything was the unsung hero of whatever you were talking about. But what annoys me the most is that it tends to use words like ensure or utilize. No one says ensure or utilize. You say make sure and use. And if you say ensure in conversation, you're a cunt. And the last one here, you're not alone. According to ChatGPT, you're never alone. But I'll be the first to tell you, you are alone. This is not a motivational video. But it's not always words and phrases you need to be on the lookout for. Sometimes it's the way it structures sentences. You'll often see ChatGPT oversell a concept like, it's not just about using AI to write. It's about unleashing your creative potential. Nah, bro, it's just about using AI to write. But the basic structure there is that it's not just about the thing you're writing about, it's also about this much bigger thing. Another one is that it often sets up a very simple point with a short question. The result? Everyone knows it was written by AI. Super annoying, keep an eye out for that one. Now, the best way to get around this is to always read out loud the output it gives you and see if it makes you cringe. If it does, edit it out. But what if there was a way to vastly improve the quality of ChatGPT's writing with just 2 simple prompts? Well, my friend, I've saved the best method for last, and that is to give ChatGPT an example. Yes, you can actually just give ChatGPT a sample of your writing and then just ask it to write in that style and tone of voice. Who would have thunk? So you can simply copy and paste a piece of your best writing into the chat, or you can attach a Google Doc, or you can feed it a URL to a blog post that you've published online, and whoop-de-doo, you've just cloned yourself. Just be aware that after a few rounds, ChatGPT will revert to its old shitty style of writing, so you might have to refeed it that writing sample a few more times. But just to show you that I'm not bullshitting you, why don't we just take the script for this video, which was written 100% by me without the use of AI, because I wanted to use it for this particular exercise, and then say, rewrite it in the writing style and tone of voice used in the attached document. Now, this is a lot closer to my writing style. You write a sentence, someone clicks a thing, buys a product, or downloads an ebook they'll never read. Cue capitalism. But if you're gonna scream into the void, you might as well make it convert. I might actually use that one. People care about themselves, their problem, their pain, their very specific desire to solve everything by buying something online at 2 a.m. Beautiful. As you can see, this is by far the most powerful AI writing hack you could possibly use. But there is a problem. You need a good writing sample. Now, most people don't have a good writing sample because the last time they tried to write something creative, they were told to grow up and start acting professionally. And so most of their writing resembles that of ChatGPT's default setting, which is what got us into this mess in the first place. Sad face. But now you're thinking, bro, I'll just use someone else's writing, lol. And yes, you could do that. Only problem is you'll start sounding like that person. Well, a mix of that person and ChatGPT. Which brings me to the final and most important point of this video. I hate to break it to you, but having AI imitate good writers won't make you a good writer. Now, you might wonder why you'd even bother becoming a good writer when you can just AI hack your way to success. But the thing about being a good writer is that you can recognize good writing. Remember how I told you it's easy for the untrained eye to miss those ChatGPT-isms? That's why you want to train those eyes. Learn how to write, develop your own style, and before you know it, you'll have plenty of good writing samples on which you can train ChatGPT to write exactly like you so that you can churn out more quality content at a faster rate. One way to get started is to join my free copywriting course, which I've linked to in the description below this video. I'll email you one copywriting tip every day for the next 30 days. Each email takes less than 1 minute to read, and you can implement the stuff I teach you straight away. Thanks for watching, and see you inside.